Hey guys, JC with Big Game Real Estate. Today we're going to talk about repositioning properties. We did some work on this out in the field, but what if you're not in the field? What's there to understand about repositioning? This is the way that you're going to make the biggest bang on your buck and yield the most return, especially on your first couple of investment properties. Yes, it's Friday. We're remembering everyone deployed Red Fridays to everyone out there serving. Let's jump right into it. So, types of repositioning. So there's three different types really of repositioning. One of them, which is where we're going to make the biggest bang for our buck, our most money, is operational repositioning. All right, this refers to a property that either is poorly managed, has vacancies, or has some either underpaying, not paying, low paying tenants that maybe we can vacate, or lease terms are expiring that we can put a better tenant in. Again, that gives us the opportunity to sign a lease, cash out, refinance, and obviously increase the property value tremendously. There are cosmetic repositioning. Cosmetic repositioning, that's striping the parking lot, that's moderate upgrades, painting, maybe some stucco work. Again, it's light stuff, it's moderate, it spruces the property up, it makes it more desirable. So first one operational, second one cosmetic, and the third one is what I call structural, or some people will say construction repositioning. That's where you're doing the heavy lifting, right? You know, you're fixing walls that might be structural that are in disarray, and it's really more to deal with the bones of the property. Again, you can also make a lot of money this way, but those repairs tend to be much more costly than the cosmetic. So now let's talk about what you should really look for and the strategies you should use potentially maybe when you're not in the field. All right, so how do we identify these? What's the best one to choose? I would go with a property that needs mostly operational, some cosmetic. Again, if you're looking at properties online or even if you're driving down the road, this is your property with a few vacancies in it. This is your property with the struggling tenant. And cosmetically, as you look at the building, it may not quite be dilapidated, but you can tell there's a lack of maintenance. Again, maybe it's the landscaping, maybe it's the striping of the parking lot, maybe the lights outside, the electrical look like they're kind of going. All right, so those are smaller repairs that really spruce up the property, make it attractive to new tenants, and they're going to be a lot lighter on the pocket and also less on the time frame, which we'll talk about in a moment as well. You also, I'll just get right into that. You want to pick a property that you can perform your work in the least amount of time possible. So again, if we go back to our third option, which was our structural or construction, you can make a lot of money with those repairs, but again, those are going to take a lot more time. So if you're focusing on a property that has mostly operational and cosmetic upgrades, those you can do quite quickly, so you're not stuck paying a mortgage and the debt on the property if you're going to have it, or even just the taxes while you're doing these repairs. Generally, in my guidelines, the goal would be to get this property quote unquote repositioned and fixed within 2 to 3 months. On your first couple of properties, maximum 4 or 5. If we're getting into the 6, hopefully you have some investors, maybe you have a syndication, a GPLP, and you're the limited partner. But if you guys are doing this on your own, or you're a 50% partner when you're starting, again, you want to get this property back up on the market and have a tenant in it. So when we're doing that, okay, we're going to stick to looking for those properties. Now, another big ticket item is something that's poorly managed. Again, when you're doing your due diligence, you're going to see that you may have under market tenants. There may be a property management company in place that's allocating a lot more funds than you need to allocate. So there could be a huge upside, and we spoke about this in other videos, in the potential rent, even with the existing income. Again, you're going to have to look through those due diligence documents to figure that out. But a key indicator as to something that may be poorly managed is look at the property, look at the landscaping, go on Google Drive, etc. Now, we talk about repositioning and getting better tenants, and that is important. But you also want to look for a property that you don't have to do that with the entire tenant roster. Meaning, if I have 10 tenants, I'm going to look for a property. It may not be undermanaged, but maybe the market rents are a little low. Maybe there's some struggling tenants that I think I could put a better tenant in there. But I want to make sure that the core of the tenants are current and are decent tenants. I like to keep it, 65 is really getting aggressive. First couple properties, maybe around 75%. I want to be able to keep 75% of my tenants. Because if I'm going to go over there and do upgrades, I've closed on the property, I've paid my first month's mortgage, so I have 30 days, which are quote unquote free because I've paid for them and they're rolled into the loan. But I want to make sure that I have actual rental income coming in on that month one. So the ideal property has operational and cosmetic upgrades that are needed, but also enable us to keep the bulk of our tenants. And if you're looking for a percentage, I would say that's 75% of our tenants. If you're looking at a shopping center or an office building or an industrial building that only has 4 or 5 tenants and half the building needs some type of repositioning, again, you can still do it. You just have to run the math because now you're down 50% of what is going to be your income. And it's okay if this income is not making you any money. If it's covering the note, covering your finances, you're in a good position. If it's close, you just have to figure out what your personal or partnership financial situation is. And if you can bear it and there's a huge upside, then go for it. If there's not, just be a little bit more cautious. The other option you can choose is a property. Maybe that's a larger property. We oftentimes see this in industrial. We spoke about it in the field with our retail repositioning when we were out in the parking lot and we saw, look, there was entirely overparked and there was an opportunity to potentially put a QSR building or something on the pad. So same idea here. You're going to want to look for a property that maybe has undeveloped square footage, right? Maybe I can put another building on there. Maybe I can get another use. Maybe I can put a pad site that will increase the revenue for my property, and that's a huge upside potential, and that is repositioning. Even if the property you're looking at is totally sound and has great tenants, is perfectly managed, and is a market rate deal. If there's an opportunity to develop additional square footage, put another building on site, maybe it's an industrial property that's sitting on 6 or 7 acres, and you figure out that you can put an additional 20,000 square feet, but the existing structure has a great tenant, it's well managed, it looks terrific, that's okay. You can pay a market rate price because you know that you're going to go in there and you're going to develop an additional 20,000 square feet or whatever it is, and you're going to get, right now you can probably get $20 a square foot on that, maybe a little more. So you're adding an additional $400,000 worth of rental income to your rent roll. So keep that in mind as well. Other upgrades that you can look to make that maybe not so much as developing a building, but if you're looking at an office building, you may have some space where you can add a cafeteria, right? So you can add amenities to the space. That's what I would look for. Again, if you're adding a cafeteria, sometimes you see office buildings, they have a nail salon, they might have a spa type massage thing, and you can make a choice whether you build out those spaces and you lease them to tenants and you're collecting some type of rent roll, or you have some type of partnership. Oftentimes we see that with a cafeteria situation where you're partnered in the revenue of the cafeteria, or you yourself are operating the cafeteria and make some money out of it. Again, unusable floor, maybe there's not a super high demand for that much space and you have the extra, you can use those amenities in that. Multifamily, a good example is oftentimes we have basements, we have areas of the building that are not being used or that are existing storage or could be storage. Hey, put some fences up, a cage, put a cage up, and start renting them out. Start charging for that amenity space. If you have 10 or 15 units, chances are those people are already paying a couple of $100 for storage. If storage for an 8x10 in your area is $200 a month, you give them a 10x10 for $150, you'll have an additional, again, 10 units at $150. That is an extra $1,500 a month That's an extra $18,000 a year. That's increasing your rent roll significantly. And other property types, you can find small things, but those are really the most common. So again, it doesn't have to be a huge lift where you're developing a building. And again, remember, if you have that extra space, you don't have to develop the building, right? You can just do a ground lease. So I can go out to the Dunkin' Donuts of the world and say, hey, I have an extra acre here. I'm just looking to ground lease it. I'm going to give you the space. You're going to pay me $100,000 a year, and you're going to come in here and you're going to build your building. Maybe I'm not even going to make it pad ready, right? Maybe I'm just going to give it to you as is. Those are additional ways to increase your revenue. So again, guys, when you're looking for repositioning properties, you're going to look at your three categories. Operational, which could be poorly managed, could be struggling tenants, could be vacancy, could be failing tenants. Cosmetic, which are your parking lot repairs, your painting, small pot. I usually say parking lot striping, but it could be small potholes, landscaping, just sprucing the property up. And then there's your structural or construction items, which again are a little bit more costly. I would try to stay away from those because in addition to being more costly, they also generally take more time, more permits. So again, you're now paying for this building. So to follow that up, it's important, if you're looking for a percentage, try to find a property where you can keep 75% of your tenants, and that other 25 is where your reposition is to make those big dollars. Have a great day, guys. See you guys on the next one.